Yujin is nobody special, and he knows it. He is 32 years old, living in a world that has already decided what he is worth, and the answer is not much. His younger brother, Yoohyun, is an S-class hunter, the youngest and most celebrated in all of Korea, a man whose name fills newspaper headlines and whose power bends the laws of nature itself. And Yujin. Yujin is an E-class, the lowest possible rank. The kind of person who dungeon raids only to carry bags and stand at the back and pray nothing notices him. He cleans up after monsters that other people kill. He survives by being invisible. That is his whole life. That is it. But here is the thing about living at the bottom of a world built on power. You see everything from down there, every crack in the foundation, every moment when the people at the top look away. Yujin has spent years watching, memorizing, cataloging. He knows how S-classes behave. He knows their pride, their blind spots, the way that they assume that anything weaker than them is also less intelligent. He knows which guilds are actually stable and which ones are one bad raid away from collapse. He knows the politics between hunters the way a man who has been bitten enough times learns to read the teeth of every dog in the neighborhood. None of it does him any good. He is still E-class. He is still nothing. And the world around him keeps escalating. The dungeons getting deeper, the monsters getting worse, the death toll rising every single year. He enters a dungeon, a low-level one, the kind he is supposed to be able to survive. He does not survive. He dies. That is how it happens. Not with drama, not with someone holding his hand. He gets hit by something that should not have been able to reach him in a dungeon ranked for beginners. And then the ceiling comes down, and then there is nothing. Not pain, not fear, not even the face of his brother. Just nothing. And then he wakes up. He is 19 years old. His room smells like instant noodles and cheap fabric softener. His phone shows a date that is 13 years in the past. Outside his window, the city does not yet know what is coming. The first gate has not opened. The world has not broken yet. Hunters do not exist. Yoohyun is still just a teenage boy sleeping in the next room, not a legend, not an S-class, not someone who will one day lead the most powerful guild in the country. He is just a kid, and Yujin is just his older brother. For a moment, Yujin does not move. He sits on the edge of his childhood bed, and he breathes. He counts everything he remembers. The order of events, the dungeons that killed the most people, the hunters who rose and fell, the monsters that nobody was ready for because nobody had the information Yujin spent 13 years quietly collecting. And then he looks at his own hands, thin and ordinary, the hands of someone who will be rated E-class when the system arrives, and he makes a decision. He is not going to try to become powerful. He knows better than that. You cannot force an E-class into an S-class. The body does not bend that way. But that was never the most important thing about him anyway. What he has always been, is someone who understands people, someone who can read potential before it blooms, someone who survived for 13 years at the bottom of the food chain by being smarter about people than anyone gave him credit for. Then it appears. A system window. Clean white interface, hovering in his vision, like something borrowed from a game. It calls itself the Caretaker System, and it is exactly what the name suggests. Not a combat system, not a leveling system designed to turn him into a weapon. It is a system built around raising others, around supporting, training, caring for the people around him. Skills oriented toward growth, toward nurturing ability, toward pulling potential out of people who might otherwise waste it or break under the pressure of their own power. A different man would feel insulted. A different man would call this a consolation prize. Yujin reads every line of the system interface with the focus of someone who has been waiting for a weapon his whole life, and finally understands the shape of it. He smiles, because here is what Yujin knows that no one else in this reborn world knows yet. The S-classes are coming. The most powerful hunters in history are going to appear, and most of them are going to be disasters. Not because they lack power, because they lack everything that surrounds power. Stability. Guidance. Someone who actually cares whether they live or die as people, and not just as weapons. They are going to be recruited by guilds that treat them like assets. They are going to be manipulated, burned out, broken, turned against each other. Yujin watched it happen once. He is not going to watch it happen again. He is going to raise them. The old Yujin survived by being invisible. The new Yujin is going to survive by being indispensable. The old Yujin ran away from strong people because strength frightened him. The new Yujin understands that the scariest thing in any room is not the person with the most power. It is the person who knows exactly where to stand so that all that power flows in the direction they choose. The old Yujin watched his brother become someone cold and relentless and surrounded by people who wanted something from him, and he grieved it quietly and said nothing. The new Yujin is going to make sure that never happens. Not the coldness, not the isolation, not the version of Yoohyun who forgot how to trust anyone who was not stronger than him. He is going to protect his brother in the only way that actually works, not by fighting beside him, by shaping the world his brother walks into before his brother ever arrives. The old Yujin was reactive. He responded to crises. He showed up after the damage was done and tried to minimize casualties. The new Yujin plans 3 moves ahead and considers 5 more after that. The old Yujin never spoke first in a room full of hunters because he knew they would dismiss him. The new Yujin speaks precisely when it will cost the other person the most to ignore him. The old Yujin believed that E-class meant powerless. The new Yujin knows that E-class means underestimated. And underestimated, when you use it correctly, is the most dangerous thing you can be. He already knows which hunters are going to awaken in the next 2 years and roughly when. He already knows which dungeons are going to surge before the guilds are ready. He already knows which guild leaders are corrupt and which ones are simply in over their heads and which ones will sell out their own hunters the moment a better deal appears. He already knows that Yoohyun's awakening is going to be traumatic, violent, and transformative in ways that will leave psychological marks that nobody around him will have the patience or the knowledge to address. He already knows that the first major casualty wave is coming from a dungeon that the government will underestimate, because the data on it looks clean until the last possible second. He already knows that there is a hunter who is going to awaken as S-class within 6 months, completely alone, with no support system, and that without intervention, this person will be recruited by someone who views them as a resource to extract rather than a person to protect. He already knows that the system sitting in his vision is not a weakness dressed up in polite language. It is a map of everything he was already good at, translated into something the world can actually measure. He begins. The first thing he does is study. Not the way he studied before, cramming information to survive exams he did not care about. He studies with purpose. He tracks the emergence patterns of gates as they start appearing, cross-referencing everything he remembers against what he can observe in real time. He makes notes on paper that he burns afterward because he does not need anyone to know what he knows. He starts building quiet relationships with people who will become important, not by revealing what he knows, but by being consistently, unshakably useful. He locates the young hunter who is going to awaken alone and starts positioning himself to be present, not intrusively, not in a way that raises questions. Just there. Just a person who seems friendly and has good instincts and makes the other person feel, possibly for the first time, that someone is paying attention to them for reasons that have nothing to do with their power ranking. The caretaker system rewards this. It gives him skills in increments. A skill that helps him read the emotional state of hunters he is bonded with. A skill that accelerates growth in people under his care. A skill that reduces the psychological damage of awakening for people close to him. None of these skills would survive a fight with anything above D-class. All of them are exactly what every single S-class hunter in this country is going to desperately need, and nobody is going to think to provide. When Yoohyun awakens, Yujin is there. Not in the room when it happens. He cannot be there, not for that. But he is there afterward. He is the first face his brother sees that is not afraid of him. He is the first voice that does not immediately begin assessing what Yoohyun's power is worth in a guild context. He is the only person who holds his brother's gaze with eyes that contain absolutely zero warmth for the power and complete, uncomplicated warmth for the person. Yoohyun is shaking. Yoohyun has just experienced something that has rewritten his body and his sense of self and his relationship to danger, and the entire institutional structure around him is already reaching for him like he is a prize to be claimed. And Yujin steps in front of all of it. Not loudly, not heroically. He just stands there E-class and completely ordinary between his S-class brother and a world that wants to consume him, and he says, "I'm here." That's it. There is a version of this story where the protagonist gets the power, where he levels up and becomes the strongest and makes everyone who underestimated him regret it with their blood and their broken pride. That is a satisfying story. But this is a different kind of story. This is the story of a man who understood earlier than anyone that power is only ever as good as the hands it is placed in, and that the most important work in any world defined by strength is the quiet, invisible, irreplaceable work of making sure the strongest people are also the most human. Yujin is E-class. He will probably always be E-class, and he is going to be the most important person in this entire world. Not because the system gave him that, because he decided it, because he looked at everything he had survived, everything he had lost, everything he had watched fall apart, and he chose to use all of it. The information, the grief, the 13 years of watching from the back of every room. He chose to turn that into something. That is the kind of protagonist this story deserves. If this hit, smash that like button. It tells the algorithm to show this to other Manhwa fans. Subscribe to Plot Vault EN so you don't miss the next recap. And drop the name of the manhwa I should recap next in the comments.